Hello, Rachel.
Hi.
I'm really glad that you were able to make it today. Before we get started, I want to just kind of go over the consent form a little bit, just to make sure that you're okay with what we're doing and that you understand. So to start with, I've been a psychotherapist for about 25 years, and I treat, I'm retired now, but I treated mostly those with complex traumatic stress disorder. So that means individuals who had chronic trauma issues in their lives, whether abuse issues as usually. And then, so kind of the first page was talking a little bit about that. And then I wanted to just make sure that you understand that if there's any area of concern, that I have concern for you, for perhaps all of a sudden as we're talking that I suspect that you might have suicidal thoughts or something like that, then I want to be able to make sure that you're going to get continued help for that if that's an issue, right? And then confidentiality is, we've talked about that because you know that today's filming, because you are a minor, that you're actually you're blocked off. Your face is not, it's concealed, and your voice has been altered for the purpose of videotaping this conversation, right? You're aware of that. So any kind of risk to you of any kind of abuse in your life or history, then I want to make sure that you're aware that there's an onus on me as a therapist to make sure that you're okay, that you're doing good. Okay, so practical details. Usually we talk for about an hour, but I'm thinking 45 minutes is probably all you need to handle. I don't know, if you feel like talking more, we can talk more. Does that make sense to you? Good, good. And then one of the things that I wanted to talk about is the area of referrals. So as a counselor, I have always been required to make referrals to other professionals if a client, if I'm no longer able to see the client for one reason or another, or I go on vacation, or that you want another referral. In this case, because of the conversion therapy bylaw in Calgary, I am not able to do that job. I'm not able to make a referral to another therapist in Calgary because they are also under this bylaw and they are not able to talk to you about the issues that you want to talk about today, unless they would be affirming of your ideas. So just so you're aware of that, but I have given your parents my phone number, and that if they have any concerns as well, that they can call me. I can't go into a counseling scenario with them, but a conversation, we can do a conversation in the future if you need to do that. Does that make sense? Okay, now let me see. One thing that I need you to do, I see the boxes have been checked, so that's really good. So I am just I'm going to sign this because I need to sign it as well. And then I'm going to get you to sign right here that we've discussed the consent form and you've read it and it's all good. Perfect.
Do I have to put my last name?
Is that your signature or just printing? Can you sign with your last name? Yeah, that's good. Perfect. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so Rachel, thank you again for coming. And you had wanted to talk about your story. And so I think what I'll do is just ask you a couple questions and then let you just share your heart. Maybe I'll explain a little bit for those who are watching by video that you had actually been in the process of transitioning, right?
Yes.
Okay, so from a girl to a boy, right? That's what the process was. So why don't we start there? Why don't you tell me when you first decided to do that, when you first thought about it, and then just go through what happened.
I was very scared. I was on the verge of hitting puberty. I didn't feel ready at all. And I saw this one video and it's what scared me the most.
Can I go back and ask how old you were then?
I was 12 years old.
12 years old. So you were watching online at a video.
Yeah, and they talked about female puberty, and I remember after watching it, I just broke down crying. I didn't want to have to go through all this, and knowing all the stuff that girls had to go through, I wondered, my first thought was, why wasn't I born a boy?
So it was after you watched the video and saw kind of the biological things that would be happening for you as a girl that you decided, oh, I don't want to go through that. Is that kind of what you were thinking?
Yes, and I worked out, and I didn't know why guys were stronger than girls, and my dad told me it was the testosterone. I was like, man, I want to get my hands on that because I want to gain muscle, but at the time I didn't want a beard or to get all hairy and look like a guy. I just wanted muscle gain, so I was like, no.
So when you watched the video, then you thought, okay, well, I could somehow transform my body a little bit. Is that what you were thinking?
And what video?
I'm sorry, dear.
Which video?
Well, the one on puberty. And then what happened? You must have, did you talk to some other people, or how did you even begin to think about transitioning?
Well, I am not sure when it exactly happened. It really gradually came, and it's not just one day I thought I should transition. It was like I was considering it, but at the time I still wanted to look like a girl, but very gradually it came that I wanted to become a boy.
Right, so it became more of a passionate desire for you. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, it was first fine being a girl, but then GSA, gradually I wanted to become a boy more.
So tell me about that. What is GSA?
It's Gay Straight Alliance Club.
Oh, okay. So those are the clubs that are actually in the elementary and public school systems, right? So there's a club, and so somewhere along the line you found out about that and they were able to help you?
Well, I had nothing to do. I had no friends. It was my first year in middle school. Everyone was ignoring me. I was a loser, pretty much.
You were feeling like you were a loser?
Yeah, and the only clubs, I wanted to join wrestling, but I lived too far away. My parents couldn't pick me up. The only club I could really join was during lunch hour, and that was GSA. So I was like, why not give it a go, make some new friends.
Yeah, and find a place where you can make some friends, and yeah. So have you always kind of had that struggle of feeling like it wasn't easy for you to make friends, or feeling like you didn't fit, or?
Yes. Most of the friends I've had in my life were actually guys. I don't know, I just always struggled with girls.
Yeah, maybe just feeling accepted by girls, and is that kind of what? So now I understand from just one communication with your mom and dad that you actually were diagnosed very young with a disorder, right?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that at all, what that is and what that was like?
I didn't know I had autism until middle school.
Okay.
I knew I was different from my peers, of course, but I didn't know the name for it until when I was in middle school. The teacher had a talk with all the students about what autism was, And turns out I actually had it.
And you'd actually been diagnosed with it previously, I understand.
Yes.
Right. So when you listen to the description of some of the symptoms of autism, was that kind of like, wow, that sounds like what I have?
Yeah, I was like, that sounds very familiar.
Wow. So how did that make you feel when you started kind of putting the dots together, so to speak?
A bit scared, I don't know.
But did it maybe explain some of the things for you that you'd experienced with
Yes.
friendships and things?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's still scary.
Yeah, when you find out you have a disorder or something, it's going to scare you.
Yeah, it's like kind of why me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was pretty hard for you.
Yes.
Did it help you in your friendships at all? Like understanding that these were some of the things that you experienced? Did that help you?
No.
No.
Yeah, people are gonna be what they're gonna be, you know, they're gonna reject you, they're gonna ignore you, and you know, that's not always in your control. You just gotta move on and find the right people.
Wow, that sounds pretty mature to me, because that's very much like not everyone's going to love us or even like us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember a lady said to me many, many years ago that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I like me. And I used to think, I kind of like that, you know? I can't be all things to all people, but I can be who I am.
Yes.
And so you've been on this journey of kind of learning who that is. Yeah. It takes many of us years to figure that out. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Really know who we are and to understand and like ourselves. Yeah. And you're very young to already have gone through some of that. So I don't want to take a lot of the conversation. I want you to feel free just to talk.
Yes.
So let's talk about how you got involved with the GSA and then what happened in that process.
So I was in math class, and the teacher in my autism program, she announced it actually. She advertised it and said, "We have a new club. It's called GSA, Gay Straight Alliance, and it's at lunch." And I was like, I should check it out. It's because I knew like all the YouTube tips were join a club. That's how you make friends in middle school. I was like, yes, let's do this. So I go to GSA and I had people to talk with, and yeah, they were accepting of my awkward and weirdness because they were kind of weird and quirky too.
Just some of them are more nerdy and
Yeah.
all kinds of different people.
They were just more accepting of me as like for my craziness, and yeah, we clicked well.
So that's really important, especially for a teenager, to know that they're accepted, right?
Yes.
And so just wherever you go, right, with whomever. Had you known some of them before? Were these already your friends, or
Nope.
you hadn't ever met any of them?
Nope. But they were very nice. They didn't ignore me.
Yeah, so you felt really ignored by the other kids overall.
Yes.
Yeah, so this was a place where you could feel accepted. Yeah, so what kind of things were you doing there? It was a good place to be at first.
Yeah. One time we made gingerbread cookies. So like gingerbread, instead of gingerbread men, it was gingerbread people, you know? So we made gingerbread men, designed them, and I love gingerbread men, so that was fun. We would have pizza there too. Some people would show up just for the pizza, which would make sense. I mean, free food.
So gingerbread people, tell me what that is.
It's a gingerbread man, but without a gender.
Okay.
So it's still gingerbread man, but it just has a different label.
Oh, I see. Because when I look at gingerbread men that I've seen, they're called men, but there's no anatomy there. There's nothing there, right? I'm kind of be feeling weird. So, yeah, how is the gingerbread a little different? It's just the name.
Yeah, it's just the name. It's in a GSA, so
Right.
and it's just a fun Christmas activity.
Okay. And pizza, so you got food. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So anything you wanted to call yourself, and it was accepted.
Yes.
Yeah. What
It
other?
was like another world, you know? Like, I felt like there was less restrictions. It's like, you know that feeling when you know you're dreaming? You're aware you're dreaming, so you do whatever you want.
So it was kind of felt like you'd walked into a dream?
Yeah, it's like freeing, you know? In my words, I call this whole transition thing Rainbow Land because that's technically where I was. I was in Rainbow Land. I mean, it defied science, and had a different concept of reality. I just say I visited Rainbow Land for a couple years.
Well, that's an interesting way of describing it. So it was like being in a dream, and there was some good, fun stuff involved in
Yes.
it, right? So very captivating, and you had new friends. So what happened? What changed for you then, and what were you feeling emotionally as time progressed?
I could feel a hint of mischief there. Although it was all rainbows and butterflies, you could just feel a little hint like something just isn't right.
So it was like you're kind of on your guard a little bit.
Yes, but I ignored that.
You did what?
I ignored that
You
though.
ignored it. It was kind of
Just pushed it back like, oh, whatever.
yeah.
This is the only place where I really had friends.
Friendship is so important, especially to adolescents, right? So how old were you? About 13 when you got into the GSA group?
12.
Oh, still 12. Okay. So how long were you involved?
I was involved until the 8th grade, and my dad had a talk with my principal to not allow me to go back to GSA because they really, like, at that point, by then in the 8th grade, I looked like a boy. I had my fake deep voice on.
So you were transitioning socially.
Yes.
You weren't on puberty blockers at that point or anything, but you were definitely socially transitioning into a
Yes.
boy. So boy clothes and boy, yeah. And how was it emotionally for you doing that? What was that like?
Well, it feels like there's two of you in some way, because I was a boy at school and a girl at home. My parents didn't know about it. So it just felt like, you know, have you seen She's the Man?
I haven't actually.
If you watch that movie, that's exactly what it felt like.
Oh, I might have to write that down if that's.
I watched that movie and I was like, that is me. That is so me. I can relate to all of this.
So that feels like inside it must have felt like being pulled apart, like you're kind of two different people at two different times.
I don't know how to explain it, but yes, I felt like a boy at that moment in time. And yeah, I had all those transgender symptoms, you know.
Tell me about those. What kind of symptoms did you have?
Gender dysphoria.
So you were emotionally upset about being a girl.
Yeah, I felt very uncomfortable in my own body. Yes, and I did feel like a boy in a girl's body at that time.
That's so feeling like a boy. What does it, I've never had that experience, and so many people haven't. What does it mean for a girl to feel like a boy? What does that mean for you? What was it like?
You know what it feels like to be around the presence of a guy versus a girl, you know? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. But
you feel that in yourself. You feel a guy within yourself.
so
It's kind of like
that's assuming that you know how a man feels,
Yeah.
right? I'm just because I'm trying to think about what that would be like. I personally always gravitated to to men's conversations because I actually thought they were more interesting in my
that's
decades
true though.
than some of the conversations around teenage girls and yeah. But yeah, so you're saying that when it's like feeling like you're in the presence of a guy, a man, and then you almost begin to feel his feelings. Is that?
It's hard to explain. It's like, you know how you feel like yourself? I can't describe it. It's too complicated, but you feel like yourself, right? You don't feel like Justin Bieber.
No, no.
That's what I mean, like that you feel like yourself.
Okay, so, and why I'm asking that is because for sure, teenage boys and teenage girls are very different hormonally. And so to feel like someone, kind of in my perception, would be you would be thinking like them, or, and certainly it might be very difficult for a girl to actually think like a boy, especially, for instance, let me give you a for instance. Teenage boys think about sex about 1,000,000 times a day. That might be an exaggeration, but constantly it's on their minds because of testosterone and the hormone levels. Did you ever think like that?
I don't want to answer that question.
Okay, that's fine. But so there's often a very big biological and physiological difference, right? So, but you were feeling like a boy, and so then you began with the transition. And did that help you feel more like a boy when you were transitioning?
Yes, I began to feel more and more like a boy.
And you were how long in the group with the friends that you had?
Well, they left that middle school because they were old enough for high school. So I was only in grade 7. We were hanging out and stuff, but in grade 8 they were gone. So my other friend was a girl. I mean, she identified as I don't remember her gender, but she identified as another gender. I think gender fluid.
And so you were together in the group?
Yeah.
And so was she the only one left in the group with you at that point in time, or?
Yeah, it was like a ghost town. Crickets.
So just the two of you?
Yeah, and then the teacher was there and she would praise us on how proud she was, mainly of me. She'd be like, I'm so proud of how brave you are. You're going to be able to help so many people out.
What did you think about that?
You're going to help people with their transitions, and I think it's funny considering I'm doing the polar opposite of it right now.
But it must have felt good to be praised.
Yes, definitely. It felt great, and I had more friends.
Yeah. So, but something else happened for you. Because obviously you're not in that same place anymore.
Yeah, I'm not.
So what happened to change your perspective?
I had these two friends. They really started a breakdancing practice. I never actually felt like a boy at breakdancing practice. I felt genderless. So it changed there. I didn't feel like I had a gender there. And there's these two people that started showing up, a couple, and they started to train me really hard. And doing that made me, I burnt a ton of fat and put on a ton of muscle. I was getting that body I wanted, and they were still using female pronouns on me. And the girl, she was really happy. She had the moves that I really wanted, and just seeing, she had short hair like I did, and she had the future that I wanted, that I carved out for myself. I wanted to marry somebody who braked. That's all that I wanted, and she, in some way, I saw her as myself.
But she was a girl.
Yeah, and at that point, it was just very gradual for me. They were training me hard, and my body was recompositioning, and I felt more comfortable because my chest was a lot flatter. So I barely even noticed. It was almost like I didn't even have the upper thing anymore. So it was very slow, but the day that I had my breaking point where I woke up from this dream was like this one trip we went on to go to this battle. I felt like wearing like pink track pants and a pink hoodie. Just, I don't know, I just wanted to stand out. And that day, there was me and that girl, and I just didn't feel uncomfortable. I didn't feel dysphoric. I didn't feel like a boy on that trip. Because she was with me, I wasn't afraid of using the women's washroom because she was with me and she had short hair. She looked like a boy too. People would judge her when she would walk into the washroom. And then, like, when we were dancing, we were a team and we did head spins and all kinds of things. And we beat a lot of people.
So you were good at it.
Yeah, it was just a fun, chill battle, though. It's not a big battle. It was an easy battle, but we were a team. We were, they're called B-boys and B-girls. So, like, we were a B-girl team, and people were cheering us on. And, yeah, after that, we just hung out, and, yeah, I just didn't feel, that guy feeling wasn't there at the moment.
So help me understand, because I'm trying to just make sure that you're doing okay, right? And so you've been through an awful lot. And at this point, first of all, this journey to be accepted for who you are, and then joining a group, right, to transition, and they accepted the transitioning in that part of you, and then kind of the group dispersing at a natural progression because they left to go to high school, and then you joining this dance club and finding...
Well, it wasn't a club. I was breaking with those people since I was 12 too, before I even started the transition.
Okay.
But that couple, they came like in the summer of 2017, and I don't know, just something about it. And I actually really looked up to the girl because she had everything I wanted.
She was became a role model for you.
And she didn't have that, like, after puberty body I was imagining that I would end up having, you know. She was very fit, and they just trained me really hard, and like it came to the point, the main thing I cared about was my chest. I didn't want big, you know,
boobs.
I don't know if I can say this on camera.
I just did.
But at that point they were so small, and like I was building muscle there, that at that point I was like, why do I even need to go further? I mean, my chest looks fine. I have these big muscles now. I don't feel the need to get my genitals changed because I'm already happy. Why do I even need one of those to be happy?
You're talking about one of those, a binder, or... Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Okay, now I get it. Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Why do you need that to be happy in your own body, right?
Like at that point, I still was in my double life, but this time I felt like I was pretending to be somebody else at school, and I was who I was at practice and at home. At this point, it felt like I was, in some ways, a guy pretending to be a girl.
Just the exact opposite.
Felt like a girl, but people saw me as a guy, and they didn't understand when I told them I was a girl.
Very hard to well, and so there's a name now for young girls and women, and boys too, that kind of go through the progression that you've gone through, and it's called a desister, right? So you desisted from transitioning. Does that make sense? So yes. You were doing that. So now you found a mentor, someone that you can look up to, a role model, who didn't have to sacrifice being female to enjoy her life. It sounds, is that what you...
Yeah, I needed a female role model, an athletic female role model.
Wow, and you found one.
Yes.
And you're happy with that. Yeah, good for you.
The crazy thing is, you know what's really funny? When you come out transgender, everyone's so accepting, but once you come out cis, everyone turns their back on you and they're all jerks. I got bullied heavily. People, yes. People did all kinds of things to me. They chuckled whenever I walked into the room. One time the whole class was laughing at me and I ran out of the room, and the teacher like defended the bully that was being a jerk to me.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Really funny thing that happened is there was a day where we were going to a hockey game and we were all wearing pink shirts to support anti-bullying, and on that day I got bullied. Irony. And so the next day I took a mental health day and stayed home because I was scared. I didn't want to go back. They were all so terrible to me. I couldn't go into the washroom because people would always give me a double look. I had fears of public bathrooms. I had to hold my pee in.
So, okay, so help me understand that. This is schools are supposed to be safe now, right? With all of the anti-bullying, but it sounds like it was okay for you to transition. You were well accepted.
And if anybody bullied me for transitioning, the teachers got my back. They were right there. Even if it was something so little as them saying, "No, you're a girl," they would be in trouble. But if somebody came and made fun of me for detransitioning, the teachers would do nothing.
So they didn't support you in your own body, in a female body.
What confuses me is that they told me that they would support me no matter what path I took. They told me that if I chose to detransition, they would be totally cool with it. But they weren't.
So, okay, help me understand this. If this was the teachers, that they were okay with you transitioning?
Yes.
But it's when you decided, no, you know what, I'm actually a girl, and I think I can be happy in my own body. Is that what you were thinking?
Well, my body wasn't the same anymore. It was more muscular. It was more toned. I was happy with it.
Right.
And I was finished puberty anyway, so I had literally nothing to worry about.
Right. So you kind of got through all that and then come to the end. So the support that you were guaranteed, no matter which pathway you took, really wasn't the support that you were expecting.
And one of the teachers, when I came out to her as cis, she broke down crying and said that I've been pushing away everyone there trying to support me, but she didn't understand because I didn't need that kind of support anymore.
So when you came out and told her that I'm a girl.
Yes.
And you wanted to be treated as a girl, you wanted your name used.
And she's like, "Why are you doing this to yourself?"
Wow, that's kind of shocking. And
she said something like that, not in those exact words, but she was really against it. One time we had a talk before I came out cis, and she asked me, like, I was sad and depressed that day, and she said, "But there wouldn't be anything that would make you any happier than your parents accepting you for who you are, right?" And I'm like, "No, there's things that would make me happier. I mean, there's this move I'm working on. I want to learn how to backflip. I want to skate a half pipe." And she's like, "Yeah, but there's nothing that would make you any happier than your parents accepting you for who you are." She kept saying that and saying that and saying that until I just gave in.
Wow.
And I lied and said, "Sure."
So the things that were making you happy as a teenager were very normal things that, you want your parents to accept you, but most teenagers struggle with their parents' acceptance at one point or another.
You said accept you for who you are as in accept you for a boy.
For a boy.
Yeah, let me get the gender reassignment surgery.
Did someone say that to you? Or?
Well, that's part of the process. All the stuff, testosterone, binders, everything. It was that teacher.
That wanted you to experience those things.
Yeah, well, I requested that, but then I changed my mind, but she wouldn't let me go back.
So how do you feel now? Rachel, how are you feeling about all of that? Because it's very confusing as a teenager anyways. Just navigating those teen years, and kids are, at least, my experience is very, very many years ago, but kids can be very cruel no matter what. But this whole experience is really, it really puts you in a different place. Like, it's like you've gone on one pathway with, well, first of all, you started out, you were a girl, and then it sounds to me like you were really fearful about going through puberty, right? And the biological changes that would happen. So that kind of propelled you into looking into avoiding puberty, so to speak. Is that kind of what you said initially?
Yes, and one thing I forgot to add, in the 6th grade, I was the only girl in the class among boys.
Right.
So when you're a kid and you hang out with a bunch of people, you eventually are going to turn into them. You know, you're the average of who you are with every day. So I was a girly girl in the first part of the year, actually. I used to be insanely feminine. I wore dresses, sparkles. I wanted my ears pierced at a young age. Me and my sister would do pretend modeling, strike poses. She would give me makeovers. I was very girly, and because I spent a year with a ton of boys in this special class, it changed me into a tomboy. So it also...
That sounds like a bad thing. Changed you into a tomboy.
Well, it didn't change me. It's like the more you hang out with somebody, the more you turn into them, the more you like them.
The more you associate,
So I started to develop more masculine interests.
Yeah. But somewhere along the line, developing masculine interests as a girl didn't quite.
Yeah, because the girls, I wanted to talk about Pokemon cards and dubstep and like parkour, but the girls, they wanted to talk about tanning on the beach, boys, what color should I paint my nails next? So I just felt left out and out of place.
Yeah, so by the time you were 12, you're like, enough of this. This is what I think I want to do, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So now you're completing your teen years. Mm-hmm. You've been on such a journey of self-recognition, understanding who you are. So today, how do you feel about yourself?
I haven't felt like a guy in months, in like a long time. Like when I was finished my detransition, I would occasionally have that guy feeling, but I haven't felt it at all.
So not having that feeling. So, and you're wearing pink today.
It's actually my favorite color.
Okay, so that's kind of cool. I think that's cool. What about feeling the dysphoria, that unsettledness with your body?
I have body dysmorphia, so I still do feel very uncomfortable with my body. Like I see my muscles, they don't look big enough. Sometimes I feel like a fatty. Sometimes I look in the mirror, I see a sumo wrestler. So I still am gonna have body problems because I have disabilities, so I haven't fully overcome that, but they're not gender related because I know you can be a guy and look like a sumo wrestler too. So it's not really gender related.
Or you can be a girl and look like a sumo wrestler too.
Yeah.
Right, so yeah, body dysmorphia. Just being unsettled in your body and yet accepting who you are.
Yes.
Biologically, by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
So emotionally, tell me about what you see as the emotional process that you've come through.
Well, at first it gave me some, I don't know, I don't want to fully diagnose this, but I think I had some PTSD after that because I had reoccurring nightmares the summer of 2018 after that happened. I would wake up in a cold sweat. I had these nightmares of being back at that middle school again. And I was scared and for a year straight, I didn't want anything to do with the area where my school was. I didn't want to even go there or even see anybody that went to that school.
So you avoided that. That's certainly part of a PTSD symptom, is avoidance. So you were avoiding the whole school or that rainbow dream or what?
All of it.
All of it.
I avoided even the area near the school. If there was a store or a restaurant near the school, I would stay away.
Wow, that's pretty serious.
And I had a fresh start in a different high school with all the kids I knew from elementary school, not the same kids from middle school. and they had no idea on what I went through. And I just resumed my life as if nothing happened, as if I was like in a parallel universe.
Yeah, so exactly. It's like this piece of your life in middle school is just kind of separated off for you, and it's like, I just want to leave that over there and not deal with it.
Yes.
Okay, that helps me. And what about you now, like emotionally? And with your peers, do you feel a certain level of acceptance? Do you have friends?
Yes, my breakdance friends, that couple were very good friends, and yeah, and I have a ton of friends from breakdancing, from church.
Wow, that's exciting. So even though, so you went through this very lonely place before you started in the GSA or before you even thought of transitioning. You were in a very lonely place without friends. And then now you're in a new school and you have people that accept you.
Well, not people at school who accept me. I do spend a lot of lunches alone, but like the people outside of school, my breakdancing friends, they're better friends than like, because they just accept me and we can be crazy. And
And you said church. Do you find?
yeah, they go to the same school, but they just have different interests from me. But my church friends, their friends ignore me, so I just don't hang out with them.
They're friends what? With their...
I have church friends, but their friends ignore me. Or there's this one church friend I have, and her friend is allergic to almost all the foods in existence. So I just don't sit with her for that reason.
So it's everybody's got issues at some level.
Yeah.
So what's your relationship like now? I imagine at home, this whole time in the rainbow dream, as you call it,
Rainbow Land.
Rainbow Land, what your parents didn't understand or know about that at first, or?
At first, they had no idea. They thought I was just going to GSA to accept people and learn about how people can be different, and that's actually what I intended at first. But then it turned into another purpose.
You wanted just to go and accept others and be accepted.
Yeah, at first.
And then, so a little bit about your relationship with your mom and dad, and I'm not going to ask great details. This isn't the purpose of our conversation. I just want to make sure that you are really feeling good about your choices and where you've come, what you've come through. Not that everything you've come through would make you feel good, but that now you're in a better place. When the whole your transitioning was exposed to your parents, or they found out,
That was terrifying.
you were terrified?
It was scary. My dad, he was furious. I mean, he had every right to be furious, but it was just so scary for me. It felt like a drop. It felt like I was falling. I was so scared. I needed time by myself. After he heard of what really set it off was that my dad, like, what happened is that my teacher in my program, I was telling her I was having suicidal thoughts from gender dysphoria. So she called up my parents and said I needed to go to the hospital, and they would help, and they give me testosterone and the surgery.
That's kind of the conversation she had with your parents?
I'm not sure. I wasn't there for the conversation, but the rest of the day went pretty well. I mean, I was talking with a bunch of kids and stuff. I had a lot more friends at that time. And I go home and my dad says, we have to take you to the hospital.
So you were shocked when he said
This
that?
is ridiculous.
Well, like you said, you can understand him being upset, you said, because all of a sudden he's being told something he didn't know about, number one, and that you were suicidal. He was fearful for you.
And actually, one thing I forgot to add, I did actually try to kill myself on the last day of grade 7.
You were desperate.
I was I like tied myself up with resistance bands and locked the door. I passed out and my dad came and he untangled me. So wait, when was the moment? Okay, so I've resumed I just have ADHD, so I get distracted with everything. I'm all over the place.
That's okay, you're doing fine.
Anyway, actually, the first time my dad found out, I came out, I think. I don't fully remember everything that happened. But when he found out I was being a boy at school, so instead of driving me to the hospital, he drove me to a parking lot of a Home Depot sort of place, and he had a conversation with me, and it was like a bit of a motivational speech, but also a rant. And I was very scared.
What were you afraid of?
I didn't know what he was gonna do, and then he just drives off and takes me to Canmore. He wanted to start a new life with me, to protect me. He wanted to get me out of this province because it was illegal to not accept me or something like that.
Right, to not accept who you believed yourself to
But
be.
we had to go back because my medications were at home, and his device that helps him sleep was at home.
So understandably, your dad was upset with all of a sudden learning all of these things and finding out that you were suicidal. What would you say, though, now your relationship with your mom and dad is like? And tell me about the suicidal thoughts. Is that still part of your life? Is it part of your experience?
It's a part of having depression, but it was the worst during when I was trans.
So it didn't help. Transitioning did not help the dysphoria. It did not seem to help with the depression.
When you have depression, you are going to have suicidal thoughts regardless, but this increased my suicidal thought. And I had way more often.
Wow, that's really interesting to hear. And so now, have they dissipated a bit? Have they gotten less?
I still do get them because it's a symptom of depression, but it wasn't as intense as that.
It isn't as intense. And your mom and dad have been supportive of you coming back into a relationship, I guess, and talking to them about this journey?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So your relationship maybe is better than it was?
Yes.
With your parents. Good.
It's just like relieving to not have a different name at school.
So yeah, it's less confusing for you, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah. What kind of things do you see for yourself in the future? Do you have some goals?
Yes.
And tell me about those.
I want to be really good at power moves, which is the acrobatic side of breakdancing, like stuff you do in the air, head spins. There's one really difficult move called air flares, and I want to get 10 of those, and it's very difficult to get. I want to be the best I can at that, and I want to continue to build muscle and just look very shredded. I want to become a personal trainer.
Good. Wow.
Because I just really enjoy fitness and working out, and it means I'll get to meet new people and I can become friends with my clients. And I just find nutritional sciences very interesting. So even though the courses are really hard, it'll be fun. And for me, if I really want something, I'm gonna put in all the effort I can for it, even if it's gonna be difficult.
Wow, that is incredible. That's wonderful to hear. So do you have some ideas about college? Are you just about finished high school now?
I have one more year left.
Right, so you've got some ideas about nutritional medicine or some learning a lot of things in that.
I'm heavily researching it. It's so confusing. There's always one person says coconut oil is good for you. No, it's poison. Don't have that. Or Diet Coke's fine. Nope, it's not. Insulin increases and then your body stores more fat. It's so confusing. It can get frustrating at times, but it's very interesting because I'm curious. How does the body work? How does it handle what you do? It's how your body reacts to your actions, and it just really interests me.
That's exciting. and how your body reacts to different foods and different things you put in.
Workouts.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of research.
Wow. I'm really excited to hear that. I'm really excited. And you get motivated when you talk about it. Did you know that?
Yes, like when I want something, there's just this spark of fire I can feel within me, and I just like, I want it.
Good. It's okay to have that fire in your soul, isn't it? Yeah. Good for you. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we finish off?
I'm not sure. Any questions?
Well, sometimes I've made some assumptions and I've asked some questions, but I think perhaps maybe a question I have is how could the school or the teachers, and maybe I already know this question, I was going to say, how could they have helped you better and understood you more? Do you have any ideas about that?
I guess be the way they were with my transition to a boy, be that way with my transition back to a girl.
Yeah, accept you.
Like be the same way both sides.
Yeah, yeah, and be a friend as well as an instructor.
It was crazy because we were actually very close. Like me and those two teachers, like we would joke around and stuff, and like I would talk to them, and just knowing that they wouldn't accept me for who I was feeling as was like crazy. I had to like fully block them out of my life. I just wouldn't talk to them, and I would avoid them at all chances I had. One time, one of the teachers came to me in my locker in the morning, and she had this book, Chicken Soup. I loved reading those books. And I just had this feeling of mischief to not take it, because she had this very fake voice. She's like, "Hi, we haven't seen you in so long. Here, we have a book for you. We know you like the chicken soup." So it was just a very, like, it was the type of voice she'll use on a 3-year-old. And I just felt something telling me, don't take it, the book. Don't take it. And later that day when I got home, my brother was researching it. Turns out there was a story about a gay person in there.
Oh, so maybe there was, and
Here's the crazy thing. I guessed it. I was like, how do I not know there's going to be a story about a gay person in there or something? She's like, what? And sure enough, there's a story about a gay person.
and you think that that's why she wanted you to read it.
Yeah, it was for teens with going through tough stuff.
Yeah. So the school could have been more supportive of your choice to detransition.
Yeah, but not only the teachers, the students. Like, I know there's this don't bully people who are LGBT, but you should also not bully people who are detransitioning, because we're still finding ourselves. We're still in middle school when we're not fully grown up yet.
Right, and sometimes you don't understand yourself very well at that point, right?
It made me feel like one big freak at school. So I was so excited to leave. I didn't want anything to do with that school again.
So the students, the teachers, so the whole bullying perspective or the anti-bullying perspective is actually quite, it sounds quite intolerant of you taking on a heterosexual kind of, like a cisgender.
Yes, it's like you have these like people who are more supportive of you, which is when you're LGBT, you have more support. You have more people by you. It's almost like you have your own warriors. Like people were fighting for me.
Right. So, who fights for you now?
Well, my parents and my friends, my two friends from breakdancing that helped me figure out who I was. They fight for me because they know about my story. They know what I went through,
And so you have the support around you. I'm really glad to hear that, because I just wanted to make sure you have people who care about you.
and I also have fighting. for me.
So you've got the supports and you've got your parent support in your family, and that's really encouraging. Well, let's finish off, and let's just we'll conclude just asking if there's anything else that you would, want to share, or if you want to talk more, or probably with your parents, about the goals you have and what you want to do in the future. I'm very excited to hear you looking at the future.
There's one thing I want to talk about. Teachers are too slack on kids being bullied. Regardless of what it's for, you can't be laid back. This happens all the time. Teachers do nothing. They say they're going to do something, but they don't do enough. Like, my dad went through this too. This has been going on for years. I mean, there was people beating him up, and the teachers didn't do anything about it, and he got punished for things. And I got punished for things too, even though the bully was the one in the wrong.
Yeah. So sometimes when you don't see an incident, a teacher doesn't see the incident, they kind of pick sides. So that's something that teachers and school systems need to pay attention to.
Right? They need to be more serious about this. They're very slack and laid back. They say go to a teacher, ask for help, but they don't do anything.
Right. So that's really discouraging. So to be able to, I think for you to be able to help others that you see bullied, to encourage them, that might be something that you might be able to do very well. Do you think so? Because you've been through it, right? Just to encourage them. Yeah. Yeah. You're a strong young woman. Thank you. Thanks, Rachel, for talking to me today.
Mm-hmm.